create that consumer that's a brand ambassador and helps to build that feeling of community with everyone else.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on episode 6 of 12 TV, where we chat business, branding, and marketing. Today we have a super special guest, Carina Ludgate, joining us.
Hello.
She is the principal and founder of Henryk Branding Co, which is a boutique branding agency here in Edmonton. She also carries the bragging rights of being a Lululemon ambassador.
Yes, I do.
So nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little more about yourself.
Yeah, so I moved to Edmonton probably almost 13 years ago now, and I went to school at the University of Alberta. I did a degree in political science, and then when I graduated I worked for the Legislative Assembly, so in the non-partisan side of politics. Did that for a few years, and then I went back to school to MacEwan this time, and I did a degree in communications. And I met my former business partner there, and we started a company right out of school. Did that for a few years, and then recently I've gone out on my own and launched my own branding company.
Awesome. So what made that switch? Big difference from politics to branding.
Yeah.
What sparked that interest?
So I ended up doing some work with the communications people when I was at the legislature, and really liked what they did. And I kind of knew, like, I always wanted to go back to school for something. Originally it was going to be law, so I was destined to be a lawyer, which is like what most poli-sci grads will tell you. But I really enjoyed what they were doing, and so at the time it just kind of worked out that MacEwan's communications program was moving to the downtown campus, and so the timing was perfect, applied to that and got in. And I also had a mentor who kind of was in the communication space, and he kind of encouraged me to apply and to pursue that. So yeah, that's how I got into it. And then in terms of like switching from just general communications to branding, I think the catalyst or the pivotal moment for that was really a conference that I ended up going to a few years ago called the Cult Gathering. It happens every year in Banff, and just learning from some of like the world's expert brand builders really shifted the focus of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to pursue.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right, you said right out of the gate you started your own business with your business partner.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you said, instead of just working in, your typical branding route or working at an agency or communications, was there a moment where you're like, I want to help others with this, I want to help tell their brand story? Was something that kind of sparked that?
Yeah, it was like a learning curve. I never intended to be a business owner. I assumed that I would finish school and go work for someone, and I did kind of work a little bit for my mentor at his communications company, so I was able to learn a little bit about agency-ish work. But it really just became a thing where having that control over a project and being able to like help people one-on-one was really something that appealed to me, as well as being able to make your own hours and
hang out with your dog more when you want to.
Yeah, hang out with my dog. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how did you start Henryk Branding Co?
Yeah, so it's a lot easier to start a business the second time around when you know all the mistakes that you don't need to make again.
Those mistakes never end.
Yes, it's a steep learning curve for sure. But yeah, I just had a few clients from my previous business, and was really fortunate to have a lot of people reach out to me early this year as I was getting the company going, and either just wanting to grab coffee, hear what I was up to, or sending clients my way. So it was a natural thing that just kind of happened. So,
awesome.
Yeah. And
there's a story behind the name, right? Can you tell us more about the story?
Yeah, it's really special to me. I was trying to think of a name for a company, which is, as I'm sure you know, always a challenging exercise.
Yeah.
And it came to me probably in the shower, which is like where I do my best thinking. I don't know, is that that's like a thing?
That's a thing.
Shower thinking? Yeah.
And it's when your phones, your computers, nothing's, that, and being in the plane sometimes.
Yes. when I'm like lying in bed about to fall asleep, I'll like get these ideas
Yeah.
after down. But yeah, my grandfather passed away earlier last year, and he was kind of a special person in our family. He was a pretty well-known architect. He was, in my opinion, like a creative genius in his field, and really ahead of his time. His aesthetic was very, modern, mid-century modern in a lot of the buildings or houses that he built, and that really appealed to me when I was thinking of the type of brand that I wanted to have from a visual perspective. And so I thought, what better way to name a company than to dedicate it to someone who was such an important person in my life, and who did so many incredible things. So yeah, I named it after him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it had I like the Henryk, like that has a nice like K at the end.
Yeah, it's different too.
Yeah.
So Henryk Branding Co. is not your typical branding studio. A lot of people, and they come to us for this, they're looking for their branding, they're thinking about logos, colors, business cards, website, all that other stuff. What makes you different?
Yeah, so visual is for sure part of it, and that's definitely a service that we offer, but it's not the main part of it. I think a lot of people, when they hear the word brand or branding, they immediately jump to a logo or type or colors or something like that. But it's really about kind of like the foundation of your company, who you are, what you're trying to do, the vision behind it, and how you're going to get there and navigate that path. So what we really do is help build that foundational piece for businesses. So whether you're a brand new company and you have just a business idea, or maybe you're 10 years in, 5 years in, and you kind of need a refresh, or you need to remember, okay, what are we doing? Why did we start this business in the first place? And so we kind of help people figure that out, and help put them on a path to kind of grow or to reach their vision.
And things can change along the way.
Totally.
Yeah. Brand story is something I think is very important. What would you say? Well, how would you define? I know people use that word loosely.
Yeah.
How would you define? What would that be to you?
Yeah, the brand story is really the narrative that is behind the company, and that can be lots of different things to lots of different companies. For some people, like my brand, I really focused on that story of my grandfather and incorporating that and his aesthetic into the brand and making that part of my corporate narrative. Other companies, it might be something around the founder, how the founder came up with the product or the service, and what's unique about that story, and how does that differentiate the company from their competition, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Could it also be their its vision, mission,
Totally.
A mantra that they want to instill with their team and their culture? Is it all together?
Yeah. Those are all definitely like core pieces of a brand for sure.
So you sit down with individuals and companies to brainstorm those and help redefine that if needed.
Yes, yeah. So we go through like a pretty thorough discovery process with clients, and that really helps to uncover those sorts of things, or if they already have them, fine-tune them to make sure that they're aligning to the direction of the company. If the direction has maybe shifted, some of that communication or some of those foundational pieces need to change. So we help them kind of navigate that.
Right. I find it's more and more critical in today's world because there's so many things out there, and everyone, like social media, everything just puts out new business, whatever the case is, right? I think a story and the whole meaning behind it's key these days.
100%.
Yeah.
And it really is what differentiates your company from everybody else who's creating the same product that you are.
Do you feel like branding and identity is different now than, let's say, 10, 15 years ago?
Yes, yeah, 100%. I think it's always been there, like branding in the sense that that I work in it and that we're talking about. It's always kind of been there, but it's existed for different purposes. And now I think, a lot, the internet and social media and that kind of thing has a lot to do with it. It's so much easier for people to access brands or companies or products from all over the world. And so being able to really tell something different or provide something different or above and beyond just a product or service, people really need that now. And I think people expect it.
So social media has definitely made an impact on branding, right?
100%.
There's so many different channels, I can name 10, social media channels where the story is told. Do you feel like it should be different told differently in each channel, or should the message be cohesive, or how?
Yeah, so part of what I do is really help make that message consistent and cohesive, but how you choose to show up or share it on different platforms should be a little bit different. At the same time, you need to also have like a consistent message so people can understand exactly what you're trying to communicate to them and understand what you're trying to sell to them, or the story you're trying to tell them. So yes, it needs to be different because obviously each social platform has different audience segments and different audiences, but there does need to be some sort of consistent thread across all of those channels.
Okay.
Yeah.
It always amazes me, like, we talk about branding and companies such as, let's say, Harley Davidson or Apple, where Harley Davidson is not just a motorcycle. It's a culture, it's a brand, and when someone sees another person with that bike, they automatically feel that connection, right?
Yes.
Or even, earlier, like with the iPhone or Apple, when they're, starting to take off again, how does one get to that? How did Harley do that?
Yeah, that's what...
Is it an organic thing, or is it,
That's what people call cult brand status, and I think that is something that happens over like many, many years. It's not something that happens overnight, and it's amazing to get to that point. But I think what that is people associate very strong feelings and almost a very strong lifestyle with those types of brands. And
I think you use the right word there, feelings. Feelings
yes,
is the key, right?
It's huge.
Yeah.
Brands are an emotional connection, and that's always what we're trying
Yeah.
to help people do. But that's something that takes years to establish, and it's really about creating that emotional connection with people in multiple different ways. And it starts from, how you communicate with people from the very first time they interact with your brand to how you communicate with them when they come into your store. And then just being able to create that consumer that's a brand ambassador and helps to build that feeling of community with everyone else who has that.
Yeah, I love that word, that connection of the individuals who are individual brand ambassadors, but if they see somebody else with that product, then they have that automatic connection, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
totally.
Or if they want to feel like they're part of a movement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brands are also a way that we tell people about ourselves. So, when I have a company logo or when I'm wearing Lululemon, I'm telling people a story about myself by wearing that product or by showcasing that brand, and by choosing to purchase that brand. I want to tell people that I'm athletic, or when I have my MacBook out, I want people to know that I'm a creative. Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's how one way that we communicate about ourselves.
Nowadays, my mom's busting all their Apple gear. But it's a lot of people ask me, because they come to us for that, like, how do I become that? Well, there's no one formula, right? It's a journey, and it takes time. And
yes, a lot of those stories too, a lot of it is like the right place at the right time at the right moment, and something clicks or something happens and it just skyrockets, right? Like, I mean, you can remember Apple from the mid 90s. Nobody really had Apple. Like, it was kind of a dying brand, and then all of a sudden the iPod changed that, and then the iPhone, and like something changed, something clicked, and now it's just like huge, right?
Huge. Yeah. So you're wearing Apple Watch too.
Oh yeah, I'm an Apple Watch.
We talk a lot about company and corporate branding.
Yeah.
What about personal branding in today's world? I feel like it's important. What's your take on personal branding?
Yeah, personal branding also very, very important.
Yeah.
It's huge right now. A lot of bloggers and influencers, that's a personal brand. Like, yes, some of it is also a business thing, but that's really someone who's done an exceptional job of building up their personal brand. So it can't be ignored, especially with social media and with having a really strong online presence. Yeah, it's got to be there.
What if you work at a company and you work, you love your job, you do what you do? How do you get started with your personal brand? Like, what?
I think you gotta ask yourself kind of those why questions, and this goes for corporate branding as well.
Yeah.
Kind of, what's something that you're doing that's bigger than yourself? Why are you, why do you need a personal brand? What are you trying to accomplish? What kind of community are you trying to build? And just really tackling those kind of questions and figuring out what are you most passionate about, and how you can start to communicate with people about that, and how you can kind of showcase that about yourself online or in person as well.
So everyone should have a personal brand in today's world?
To some extent. I think your reputation is largely your personal brand. The way that you carry yourself, the way that you interact with people, whether it's intentional or not, or you're really trying to build something, I think those are all pieces that make up kind of who you are and your personal brand.
100%. And what you put online, I think, is important. If I don't know what you do, if you get like applicants or people that want to work with you or whatever the case is, first thing I do is look on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, 100%. And see what their story is.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And not just job applications, but anything. Like your immediate, or maybe this is like a generational thing, but your immediate thought is, oh, I'm going to Google this person, or I'm going to find them on Facebook or find them on Instagram and like see what they're up to and like what their actual
what they're really all about, right?
Everybody does it.
Yeah. So it's really important what you put out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very important.
So for what about business owners like yourself, myself, how do we separate, and should we even separate the personal brand and the company brand?
Yeah, that's a question that I get a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it really depends on each individual and each company and what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to put out there. Some business owners, it's beneficial to have those two separate. It's maybe they want their private life to be just friends and family, and they don't want anyone business related to be able to find them online. Or like for me, I find it very important that I have both brands public and both my personal brand and my business brand kind of out there for everyone to see. And they're like what I put on Instagram on my personal account is mostly my dog.
Mostly your dog.
Yeah.
That's like what I do too. Mostly my dog.
So I am cognizant to like keep them separate, but at the same time, like I do want my personal brand to also help inform my business and vice versa. Yeah. So
it depends on the industry. It depends on your personal like level of how you want to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Would
Totally.
be it, right?
Yeah.
So for those who do want to get started, like where, let's say they find their story or they're working on it. It's always a journey, right?
Yeah.
What's the best way to get that message out there?
I think just sitting down and really crafting a very succinct, like key message, for lack of a better word, of what you want people to know about you, or exactly what you want people to understand about your company or your personal brand or whatever you're trying to put out there, and finding a way to say it in a bunch of different ways, so people can really grasp what it is you're saying or what it is you're selling or who it is that you really are.
Right. Yeah. So do they start putting it out on social media? Do you
Yeah, social is an easy, free option
outlet,
for sure. Yeah. Building some sort of landing page or website or whatever that might be, and getting out in the community too. Like, yes, online is very valuable, but I can't stress enough like how important networking and like getting out there and meeting other people and telling them your message, whatever that might be, it's also very important.
And as a company, if you're restructuring them or realigning their brand, do they generally go and instill that within their culture and their team? Is there like a rollout way to get everyone under the same umbrella now?
Yeah. So that again depends on the company, depends on how large of a staff they have, if they have multiple offices in multiple different places. But usually there will be some sort of like rollout plan internally and to get buy-in. One of the things I personally am like really interested in is kind of like that brand culture and how companies build culture internally and affiliate it with the brand that they're also trying to build externally. And it's really great to tell people and tell your employees who you are and what you're about, but it's more important to show that. And that's done through leadership and through taking the time to build the relationships with your employees and really build that culture on the one-on-one or like a team building setting, not just giving them a piece of paper and saying like this is our vision, brand, learn it, like live it.
I think it's like the old-fashioned way where it's something just made up, right?
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't work anymore.
I think action, and people, when they see the leadership take action, that's exactly what it is, right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
So, long gone the days hiding behind a office on whatever floor, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. People need to see leadership out there. They need to understand how leadership is behaving and how they're living out those visions or those values in the office to be able to follow it, right? You have to lead by example.
100%. I truly believe in that.
Yes.
Yeah. For those who are looking to start, maybe open their own branding studio, design studio, whatever it may be, it's a question I get every day, and I get this from students or other businesses or anyone. My question I get asked the most would be, how do I find my first clients, or how do I find my clients? How do I keep finding clients? What would be your take on that?
Yeah, you really have to spend time building a network, I think, and tapping into those resources. Going to networking events.
Is there one you recommend?
There's so many. Literally, go an Eventbrite and look up Edmonton networking or whatever. But there's always events put on by various organizations, whether they're the Downtown Business Association or anything like that, or lots of businesses who are just putting on panel events or trying to showcase their own community or trying to build up their own community. There's so much that's out there, but I would start by doing that. I've found in my experience that my network has been invaluable to me, and it will pay off in dividends. It doesn't always pay off right away, but I think just building those relationships with people will always pay off.
And it all starts from just having a coffee, and you just email, have a coffee. That's how we met.
Yes.
And now here we are, right?
Yeah.
So, so for those who have their own business or sort, what is one, if you had to leave us with one key action, I know you mentioned networking, but to help grow and scale their business, what would that be?
You need to be very, very clear on what your vision is and build backwards from that. I think a vision is very often something that maybe you'll never completely achieve, right? It's always something that you're striving towards.
Yeah, they call that North Star.
Yes.
Trying to get to that North Star, you have to have that, right?
Yeah, and you need to align everything to that. And so that's really how you start to build a brand, and that's really how you can diversify your products and services. But as long as everything is leading to that, I think you're set.
Right.
You'll always know how to make your business decisions.
I think if it's like if you have a map, or if you don't have punch in where you're going, you'll never know where you're going. You have to have that end point, right?
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Okay, so it's always good to figure out what that is, sit down, put that on paper,
Yep.
and then work backwards.
Yes.
Interesting. What else would there be? If they want to come find you, where would they find you?
You can find me on social media
Yeah.
at Henryk Branding Co. or at Carina Ludgate. And my website, henrykbrandingco.com. Email me, DM me. I'm pretty easy.
Call her for coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Pretty easy to find.
Dog park?
At the dog park.
At the dog park?
Yeah.
Is there anything exciting that you are working on that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I am working on launching a podcast under my company. Hopefully this summer. Podcasts are a huge amount of work and very time consuming. I'm learning, but it's something that I've always really wanted to do. I think I'm really passionate about knowledge sharing and helping kind of build that next generation of entrepreneur, build that next generation of brand builder. And so this is just the natural course, I think, for me to be able to continue to share content and share content from other experts, right? I don't know everything, I don't pretend to know everything, and so I'm really looking forward to sharing knowledge from other experts across the field.
Awesome. So it's going to be interview style, or I don't know if you're telling us just yet?
Yeah, it's all good. It'll be interview style. I'm hoping it'll be people in Edmonton and Alberta and across North America who are kind of experts in their little niche areas within brand or within entrepreneurship.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to that.
Yes, thank you.
I think that's it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
Another year, let's get it. Another year, get better. Blood and tears get shedded. The sweating coming with the music though. Speaking with my feelings in it, with nowhere near regretting it. And what I'm smoking right is therapeutic. And she wanna leave cause she require my mind. I'm focused on success and that requires my time.